All right, everybody, welcome. This is Jake. You're listening to the Final Friday podcast, the third episode, actually. I apologize to listeners who were expecting an episode to be released earlier, end of May. It's just been a little bit of a hecticness trying to, basically, it's my fault not recording a podcast. Anyways, I'm here joined today with Steve. He's the man who's basically turned my dream into a reality. Good friend of mine, and yeah, ultimately my boss. So, Steve, how's it going, man?
Fantastic.
Right on.
It's been a good Monday so far.
Yeah, you've been pretty busy. I just wanted to say thank you for hopping on with me. I know you've been everywhere, and tomorrow you're going to be everywhere, and then Wednesday you're going to be gone. So I appreciate you fitting me in the schedule.
Absolutely.
This is actually the first podcast that you and I have actually done, just you and I, over the 6 years I've been here. You and I have never actually recorded a podcast just ourselves. So I'm super stoked to do this with you. Yeah, so real quick, I just wanted to recap for people who don't know what Final Friday is. We have two episodes earlier, but if you haven't listened to those, basically, this is an episode or this is a series that I'm hosting. And it's a segment for listeners who are kind of in the similar place like me, who, don't have as much experience in the, hunting world. And, I want to talk with industry professionals who can provide great information for ultimately myself and for listeners who kind of find themselves in a similar spot. And then I want to kind of ask, these next few guests that I have on the podcast, basically the same five questions that can basically help guys like myself lead to be more successful hunters. It was kind of an idea that I got from Steve. So I'm super stoked to kick this off and basically have Steve as my first real guest to ask these questions. So, Steve, really quickly, I wanted to get a background from you before we dive into the first couple questions, because obviously you and I aren't in the same age bracket, and the first couple questions, I kind of need you to picture yourself back when you were my age. So, if you could really quickly give me a brief background on kind of what you were doing around my age, like 18 to 25, like what was work like? You weren't doing XO. What was that like?
So 18 is when I caught the official, what I call hunting bug, really bow hunting bug. Growing up from, we certainly an outdoor family, lots of fishing, camping, like upland game hunting, and then deer hunting was something we did, the best of my recollection, one weekend a year. We'd go do like a whitetail camp up northern Idaho. And, me and my two older brothers, my dad and my dad's buddy, sometimes some of my brother's friends. It was always kind of just your very traditional go up for a 4-day weekend or something like that, hunt. Like every year, maybe one person would kill a deer, right? Like there wasn't a lot of success, but it was more just getting out, and I had a lot of great memories. And that's kind of my hunting. I wasn't like obsessed by any stretch of the imagination with hunting until 18, and I picked up a bow. I guess at around 16, 17, we were going on some deer hunts, and the way my brain works, I started, just kind of like questioning. I remember asking my dad, like, can we get some camouflage? Like, is that going to help us kill stuff? Like, because we're just truly like blue jeans and flannels, so my brain just started thinking about like, okay, like I know people are more successful. I want to be more successful. What do we need to change up here to make that happen? And then at 18, my best friend to this day, Keith, who you know pretty well too, Jake,
Mm-hmm.
he was a bow hunter, and went over to his house after school one day, senior year of high school, and shot his bow. It's a pretty funny story where I literally, from 10 yards, I completely missed the target, and arrow went through his shop and bounced off tools inside his dad's workshop. And luckily nothing was severely damaged, but it's a pretty comical moment looking back. And the next day I went and bought a bow. And from then I was just obsessed. So it
Right.
wasn't a question of, it was just all I thought about. So it was just bow hunting and shooting my bow. And so time wasn't really a question. I just made it work. Whenever I had a free moment, that's what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so, what were you doing for work around that age?
At 18, I was obviously in school. So that would have been, that was my senior year. So freshman year of college, similar to you, I did Tuesdays, Thursdays. I did all my classes on those 2 days. And then I would work Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Hmm.
and I was doing construction back then. So my family had a metal building company, and I was out in the field working. Yeah,
Okay.
3 days a week. Yeah,
Okay.
and so
Yeah.
hunting was, you know, September was basically Friday afternoon. Try to get out of work early, and just didn't never missed a single opportunity to be hunting if I wasn't working. Right, so
Hmm.
head up on Friday, get a Friday evening, all day Saturday, Sunday morning hunt, get home Sunday night, and repeat. And that
Right.
was September. In those early years, I did September archery, and then November the late 39 archery hunt. I did that a lot. So those were kind of my two hunts for quite a few years.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, basically, yeah, just transitioning into that question, you kind of answered it a little bit is,
Yeah.
when you were around my age, how did you find the time to hunt as much as you possibly could? And I kind of want to relate it to me in a way. Obviously, I work in the hunting industry, but I want to relate it to other folks who are in a similar boat as I am. And I wanted to kind of get your thought, get your take on basically how does somebody find the most time they possibly can? Do they have to get a job in the hunting industry, or is it just finding a job that works around their schedule? And is it just basically taking sacrifices and really, if the job is super strict with vacation?
Anytime you have a real like a passion for something, kind of said you make it work, right? So there's a lot of people like, oh, I'll really only get a full day Saturday. I'm not going to go up for the weekend because it's not a long weekend. For me, I had the opposite attitude. Like, just haul butt out of there on Friday, get up there, get a quick hour or two evening hunt on Friday, hunt your butt off all day Saturday, Sunday, and come back and do it again.
Right.
So you just find the time, you make the time, right?
Right.
And
Absolutely.
as you get older, you're going to realize how much time you have right now. Like from
Right.
from when you have a couple kids and you're looking back, you're like, what in the world did I do? Because all you had was time, compared to it gets a lot harder.
Yeah, for sure. I know you definitely have put that bug in my ear quite a bit. I was going to ask then, like now, do you find yourself, being the owner of two companies in the hunting industry, but you have two kiddos and a wife, family, and all that? Do you find yourself, yeah, I mean, you basically kind of answered it. You have less time than you did when you were my age, correct?
Yeah, certainly less time. It's my kids are getting older now. They're 4 and 6. It was a lot harder when they were, 2 and 6 months old to get away. I kind of transitioned to, I just do longer trips, but less trips. And it's just easier to plan with the family. I find, all right, I'm going on, going for this week of September instead of hunting said every single weekend. That's just not an option anymore. I'll be like, all right, I'm going out for this week. Obviously, hunting is a major part of my job. So there's hey, I am going hunting and that's also work. So my wife can't put up too much of a fit. But if, we've got lots of buddies who like Jeff Bloomquist you'll have on the podcast. And, he's basically kind of self-employed in a sense, has his family and he makes time off work and just, again, it always just, you go back to what I'm saying of if you have this passion, you just find a way to make it work.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. No matter if you've got something to work with, basically, if all you've got is weekends, then just make it work.
Right.
And so I think this is a great transition. Something that I admire about you is how efficient you are. I think efficiency is the name of the game for yourself. Do you find yourself being as time efficient, in the woods as you are in the office? Basically, every time I see you in the office, it's how can we cut things down? How can we make it as efficient as we possibly can? And do you think that has a lot to do with being successful in the woods? And before you answer that, like I want to say, like a lot of people love to go out and chillax, quote unquote chillax, or they like to take their time in the woods. And I mean, for you, have you found that, just going balls to the wall, being efficient as you possibly can, that's just made you a, better, more successful hunter rather than kind of enjoying it in a way, that do you find a balance?
I find a balance. Yeah. I think since you've known me, right, young kids running businesses, it's when I was hunting, it inherently just had to become more efficient. If I wanted to kill something, I couldn't mess around. I couldn't waste days. I needed to find a way to get out there, be successful, and come back. I've certainly, that I think is just more catered to, well, I said part of that is just me. Like everything I do in my everyday life is always just finding efficiencies. It's just something that I'm always looking for the better way, or when I see things that just don't look and feel right, I'm always like, how can I improve on this? So I certainly just apply that to my hunting. But again, I think most of what you're alluding to is I do just try to get out there, get things done, and get back in it. As my kids are getting older and time away from home isn't as tough, I'm certainly picking hunts where I take, I put the brakes on in a sense and just make sure that I enjoy it. That, when Mark just came out for the bear hunt, it's like last year, it's like, I think there's a lot going on. Like, all right, let's go in there. Let's get some bears killed. Let's get out. Killed 2 bears on the first day, got out the next day. Great, awesome hunt, back to work, get things done. This year, it's like things are going good right now and smooth and low stress. So it's like, man, let's just go out there and enjoy this. And then we kind of went in with that mentality. I'd
Right.
certainly, I said, I try to, as with all things in life, you need to think, trying to think of the words here. You need to kind of set expectations. You need to set goals. And I think it's really something important to do just for your hunting in general, but also I'm breaking it down into individual hunts now. Like, all right, this weekend, I'm like, my goal is to go get elk meat in the freezer, and that's all I'm focused on. This one's just about I'm going with a couple buddies. Let's have as much fun as possible and still hunt hard. And then, the different hunts, I just find different reasons that what my goal is for that hunt.
Right. So staying on this question, when I want to kind of, set the time clock a little bit back, kind of going along the same, 18 to 25 years old.
Mm-hmm.
When you were younger, was your time efficiency different than it is now?
Terribly, yeah. As far as not, we had this attitude that I think just somebody had instilled in us, and maybe just a combination of advice was you gotta keep hiking and working hard, and eventually you get your opportunity to elk. So we definitely, like Keith and I starting out hunting, we just hiked all day long and just kind of like moved around the woods, and we were working hard, but we weren't working smart and certainly not efficient. Like
Mm-hmm.
those first 5 or 6 years, I think I killed an elk almost every single year, but it was like, basically I always felt like I'm going to hunt every weekend all of September. So some years that's 4 weekends, some years it's 5, and I'm going to get one opportunity. So I can't screw that one opportunity up, because that seemed to be the rule. Your days are so limited that, we hunted our butts off. And hindsight, it's all perspective, and hard is nothing but a state of mind. That, what we're doing is pretty easy. Like, going out on like 3 to 5 mile loops, hiking and climbing 1,000 feet, maybe 2,000 feet. But back then I thought that was, really, really hard. Now that'd be like a walk on the green belt on a Sunday afternoon. But yeah, you're just kind of fumbling your way through figuring things out. And then at some point, just like I did when I talked about when I was like 16, 17, I'm like, oh, there's got to be a better way to do this. That's when I'd say, so 2002 is when I graduated high school. So from like '02 to '08 was, I was killing an elk every single year, cows, little bulls, spikes. Um, and then somewhere around 2008, I started, I just, I was in the hunting industry at that point, and then I'd come across guys like Russ Meyer that are not
Right.
only killing animals every single year, they're killing animals almost every single time they leave the truck, whether it's a
Yeah.
day trip or they're going out for a weekend elk hunting. And then that really opened my eyes to like, whoa, what else is out there? What am I missing? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what am I doing wrong? And I think I just started asking questions.
Right. Right. No, for sure. So no, I'm going to have Russ on, and I'm going to ask him how he's so efficient and stuff. I basically, yeah, that was kind of the answer I was looking for. You answered my question. I just wanted to see kind of when that time efficiency changed, or how you became more efficient when, in that progression of when you started hunting to, middle to now. And I think you answered it basically saying it's just, as you continue, you just learn from your mistakes and you start to, yeah, just get better with it. Is that,
Yeah,
and just,
I think it's incredibly important to go get experience points. You
mhm.
just get out there and hunt as much as you can. So from in my those first few years of taking hunting seriously, I was doing that. I was hunting a lot, but I wasn't really learning from it as much as I could have.
Okay.
So I had to start being, not only do you need to get out there and you need to hunt hard and gain experience, but you also need to be learning from what you're doing. And a lot of it's real simple steps. We just did a podcast this morning with Ben Reynolds from Alaska, and he was, just as a hunt progresses, he every night in his tent, he's taking notes just on his phone from what happened that day. How does he feel? What did he see? How did the hunt go? Did he notice something unique about sheep behavior that he didn't notice before? I think little things like that. I tend to do it more when I get home, the few days after being out in the field. I just kind of process stuff, and I don't really write it down, but I certainly take a lot of mental notes of what I saw, what happened. I did this, the animal reacted that way. I noted like as I'm saying that, one thing I learned early on with elk, bow hunting elk in particular, is just how much movement you can get away with in a shot situation. I remember killing an elk, and I think it was Jason was with me, but he said basically I was a full draw, the elk standing there, and I knew just from experience that I could take a couple steps. There's kind of a tree blocking us, and the view wasn't great, and we had just made a cow call sound, so the elk was pinned on us. But I knew I could basically, I had put the pin right where I knew it needed to be, and then just took 2 steps at full draw to the side, got a clear shooting lane, shot, killed the elk. And I remember Jason being like, I never would have done that. I would have not tried to move in that situation because I'd been too afraid the elk was going to bust out. And hindsight, like, that elk was frozen there. He was going to his next move was going to be bolting out of the country regardless. So I just created that opportunity for myself and killed the elk. And I think I'd learned that just from experience of being in a situation where the elk didn't have great visibility. It knew something was up, and I had to, they're gonna give you a couple seconds if you move before they bust out of there, because they're hearing an elk, they're expecting to see an elk, they see movement, they're gonna lock on you, but then all of a sudden, bam, an arrow's slipping through their lungs.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the name of the game too. Like I struggled. Well, no, I learned from that last year elk hunting. I've definitely heard it from pretty much every single person in the hunting industry. Is basically saying you have more time than you really think. And last year, I was full draw on a cow. I was full draw on a cow for 2 seconds until I let the arrow fly, just because I thought the cow was going to spook and basically rush the shot. And it ultimately led to unfortunately a miss. And yeah, I mean, I knew better. I knew that I had more time than I thought I did. And it was just the combination of having a lot of time looking at the elk coming in and also hearing the bull screaming to my left. And it was just a rookie mistake. It's something that you want to learn from, and something that I'll take notes from. And I know you mentioned that earlier, that when you get home from a hunt, that's something that you do is take notes. And so I'm going to skip my third question because I think the fourth question that I had really ties into this well. And so I don't know if this is, if note taking is going to be your one answer, but I want to see if you have another answer for this.
Mm-hmm.
But, what type of advice then would you give, listeners who are looking to increase their success, in the field? I know you mentioned note taking. What kind of mindset does it take to, go from eating tag soup almost every year to at least filling one, if not 2 tags a year? Like, before you answer, I know, I don't know if this really applies. This is something that I just made a mental note when I was literally just asking this question. But one thing that helped me a little bit, I've become a little bit more successful. I'm not quite there, but I've got a few animals under my belt, but definitely no Russ Meyer, nowhere close. But when you took me to Kodiak, Alaska, that was a really good opportunity for me to get a few animals under my belt and also be a part of a few other animal harvests from all of the other guys there. So looping back, like, is something like that, is that one way? I know that's not as budget friendly,
Mm-hmm.
Just to, I want to make sure people know I'm not saying go buy Kodiak hunt and that's how you get better at hunting. But what are some ways that you think, other than taking notes or, hunt like that, to basically help somebody find more success in the field?
It's you,
It's a loaded question.
you, yeah. I mean, there's certainly, I said the number one thing is just get out there. Like, you're not,
Mm-hmm.
if you're just thinking you're going to go, like in September, like, I don't really feel like going this weekend. Like, you need to, if you want to become, break out of I think the saying's what, like 10% of the hunters kill 90% of the animals, and the other 90% of guys are just out there, messing around and every 3 or 4 years actually get something killed. If you want to become that 10%, you need to really just take it serious. Understand that there's going to be a sacrifice. You're going to, at your age, it's, you want to go out to the bars on a Friday night, and, that's totally awesome. But at the same time, maybe don't do that during hunting season. Like, you should be out
Yeah.
hunting every weekend if you want success. And that goes back to what I talked about earlier about like setting goals. Like, what I think it'd be really important to identify, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to, as I've evolved, it's become more about appreciating the experience. And so now I'm specifically searching for like very high adventure hunts. I seem to get the most reward from those personally. They could be challenging. Certainly, there's a lot more planning and preparation that goes into them. But at the same time, it's also great just to run out for the weekend and go bow hunt with a buddy for elk. But
Right.
I'd say to be successful, it's a combination of everything. You need to become proficient with your weapon. I personally think from, in like from '02 to '08 here, I'm talking about when I was, bow hunting a lot, or those first few years of taking bow hunting seriously. I think it was just drilled into my head that I need to shoot, 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 shoot. Right. And I did. I shot a lot, and I was really dang good and very accurate with my bow, to where, I could probably shoot back then better groups at 100 than I can right now at 40 and 50 yards. Like, I'd say, no doubt, I'm 1,000 times better hunter now than I was back then. Right. So just because I could shoot well didn't make me a good hunter. And I think a lot of that was shooting well under pressure. That I do better now, right? Like, you get buck fever and whatnot early on. So, like, technically at the archery range or a 3D tournament, I could shoot really tight, nice groups. But when it came into the field, I messed up a lot of shots. Miss high, miss low. My first elk ever, I shot in the guts and had to wait 24 hours. To get her. Made a lot of mistakes shooting early on that weren't because I wasn't a capable shooter. It's just because I wasn't, I was getting too hyped up in the situation, and that's kind of bouncing all over the place. But like Kodiak, I think, is such a great experience. Yes, it costs a lot of money, but if you're, maybe if you're not 20 years old, but if you're in your 30s or 40s and you can afford it, with the 3 deer tags that you can go up there and, you got 2 or 3 other buddies, you can kill 9 deer between the 3 of you. That's a lot of experience wrapped up in 7 days, where you get to come to full draw on an animal and squeeze that trigger, squeeze the trigger on your rifle. And I think just shortening that curve a little bit, and that's where, by shortening the curve, just basically the more you can get out there and hunt, the better. And that's where, even spring bear, it's a great excuse to get out. And maybe you're not super jacked up about killing a bear, but it's also just really great experience for this fall when you get into a situation where, an elk is standing in front of you and you're about ready to shoot it. You kind of can pull from your experience on this previous bear hunt and help calm yourself down and execute a really good shot. So
Yeah.
I think, again, you just can't replace experience. You just need to be mindful of your experiences and take notes and learn from them. If you can at all find somebody who's hunted and is proficient out there and tag along with them, I would highly, highly recommend that. Just be like, hey, I don't even want to hunt. Can I just come hike with you and learn from you? And if you kill something, I'll help pack it out. Like, if that can certainly, listen to your elders, right? Like, there's a lot of wisdom there, and getting out and hunting with them, I think, would be, really impactful on shortening up that learning curve. And I'm still trying to do that today. Like Russ Meyer, I keep every year kind of like, hey, let's get on a hunt, because I would just love to hunt with a guy. I know I would learn a ton from him. And so I think, it's never ending, right? Just
Right.
always searching to get better and better. And yeah. So get out there, get some experience points, be mindful, learn from others, and just, if it's understand that it's going to take a sacrifice. It's not like you can't just, there's a lot of information that can be gleaned from listening to podcasts and watching YouTube videos. But at the end of the day, that's not what's going to move the needle for you. It's going to be getting out there, and say you learn some great tactics from listening to a podcast. You got to go out there and apply them, right? Like,
Yeah.
and see how it works for you, and get that experience.
Right. It's not like a get rich quick kind of scheme. You just,
No.
yeah, you got to put in the, I've
There's
been
no
taking,
no
yeah,
shortcut.
no, exactly. I've been taking many notes. And one thing that I did write down that you say you do, and honestly, I don't think I've ever done it, which is why I wrote it in all caps, is setting goals for hunting. I've set goals, here in the office quite a bit, or deadlines, goals, stuff like that. But for hunting, I don't think I've really ever set goals really. I maybe I just take that for granted almost. And I just go, I know we go out every year and try to get as much as we can, but I really don't go in there without, with 1 to 2, 3 goals set. And I think that's something that I'm going to do. I'm going to try.
Yeah. I mean, it could be as simple as, I'm going to hunt X amount of days this September,
Right.
or I am going to kill an elk and I'm going to complete that goal, or, right. I mean, it could be a multitude of different things, but it's super important, again, in all aspects of life, to set goals and build a plan to achieve that goal and execute that plan. Because if you're not doing that, like, what the hell are you doing? You're just floundering around.
Yeah, for sure. And I will say, like a little rebuttal statement for me, or going against me. Like, I remember when we were driving to shows, you were asking Pat and I kind of what our hunting goals were. And that's the only time I've ever talked about hunting goals. Now I have, one thing I did tell you was, shoot my bow quite a bit and, be familiar with my equipment. And that's definitely one thing I have done more than, during the off season, not, July or August, but earlier this year, I've shot my bow, whether it's, taking it to the range, or, blank bail, or fletching arrows, stuff like that. So I have done that. But as far as hunting specific, going out in the field, no, I really don't think I have. So I'll definitely do so. And then earlier, so I'll go to my essentially third question, but it'll be the fourth. You mentioned about when you were, 2002 to 2008, you were shooting your bow every day, I assume, or quite a bit. And I think, training is definitely a heavily talked about conversation, when it comes to hunting. And, I myself do a lot of weight training and try to get in cardio when I can, as of lately. I would say, first off, do you think, I know the answer to this is yes, but, do you think training is important, and to what extent though? When you were my age, did you do much training as far as physicality, or was it purely just equipment?
No, yeah. So that 02 to 08 time period was, I was working construction, so I was kind of just naturally out moving all day long, but certainly no training. The never once in all those years did I throw weight in a backpack and go hike up a mountain, right? And in the middle of summer, just because, or go to the Boise foothills. I never did any of that. It was definitely just suffer through September. Certainly the first couple hunts where you're super sore, and it takes like by the second or third weekend until you start feeling good and getting your mountain legs underneath you. But again, that even what I thought was hard back then is now just, I go do that at lunch break on a Wednesday. So his perspective has changed a lot. Training, you could be a fantastic hunter. You could go out and kill stuff and be massively out of shape. You do not have to be in peak physical condition to be an effective hunter. It's never, ever going to hurt you to be in better shape, though. Right. That's certainly that's never going to be a downside. You can, work with the tools you have. And if I can only hike 2 miles on a logging road, like I guarantee you, I could go out and be successful this fall if if that was what my limits were. Like I'd hunt areas and choose spots that were beneficial to that type of hunting. So you don't have to be in shape, but if you want to live from a backpack hunting mentality and go out there and have these really cool experiences, physically fit is incredibly important. I think some of it gets overrated, overhyped, but the better shape you are, again, it's just never ever going to hurt. So I would say, if shooting your bow 5 days a week is what you're doing and you weren't training at all, I'd switch that around to, shoot 2 days a week, train 2 days a week, and take 1 day a week off. So I don't know, during the middle of the week.
So for somebody who's listening and they're wanting to kind of, I wouldn't say ramp it up. Yeah. Ramp up their training in a way, or just start. What's a good, what's a good training plan like, for you?
Man,
I know you,
yeah.
I know it's different for everybody.
Yeah, I know I've told this before. I think it was 7th or 8th grade AAU basketball. He was a former Boise State basketball coach, and he was our coach. And I went from a basketball coach for the actual middle school team, right? That was like all about sprint drills at the end of practice. We do practice and then we do sprints. You do your ladders and whatever, and run back and forth. And I was like, okay, you got in good shape. And then that summer, I played this basketball league, and the coach had a completely different mentality. He basically said, if you guys, we basically ran like full court all practice long, right? Like you guys just play, practice hard, and run up and down this court. There is no conditioning at the end of it. And I was like, this is incredible. Yeah, I'll do that. And because everybody hated conditioning at the end of it. And what we found is like, even at that age, I realized like, oh my, I could play an entire basketball game and not lose my breath. And it was just through that process of basically doing, instead of trying to train for what you want to do, I just actually do what I want to do, and through that get better. And I take that lesson that I learned way back then and apply it now. So basically, my training for hunting is putting on a backpack and hiking up and down mountains. And I think I said this on a podcast a year or two ago. Like it's right before I was going on a sheep hunt. Like I'm just basically going to replicate a 10-day sheep hunt here at home. So I'm going to go out. I'm going to hike 5-6 miles and as much elevation as I can for 10 days straight, take a week off. And then I knew going into that first hunt that I was going to be in really good shape, versus if I was just trying to like do some lunges or squats or something in a home gym and then, build up that into going out hunting. Again, to me, it makes so much sense to just do what you want to do. I took that same approach, for years. I was competitively cross-country racing mountain bikes. And instead of trying to do kind of training stuff, I would ride like I was in a race. I would pick a 20-mile loop and go do it as fast as I could. And I record the entire ride, and it's on that Strava app, and it break down into segments. And I'd go ride it again 3 days later and basically race the time I had previously posted. And I'd go back, and the second I got home, I'd upload it and analyze it. And I did this segment faster, I did this segment slower. And so I just trained with very high intensity. And when it came to races, for quite a few years, I think I had like 3 years, I took first or second place in every single race I did, because I trained like I was racing all the time. So to me, that method has worked. Versus, there's certainly lots of programs, and I understand them. If you're Mark, and you're in Missouri and you don't have mountains, then yeah, you need some type of workout program to do in your home. But if you're at all live close to mountains, put a pack on and go hike. And I can almost guarantee you'll be, in fantastic shape when opening day comes, because it'll be nothing new. You've been doing it all summer long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I definitely think, there's a good mix to everything, like weight training, hiking, shooting the bow, all of that. I definitely lack going and hiking. I don't know if it's just, sometimes it just doesn't sound all that glorious. Yeah, exactly.
It's
like,
not fun. Yeah.
like my take is like, being 23, single, you want to go home and you want to get a pump going on, that's more satisfying to me than going on a hike. Now, granted, I went on a hike last week. Yeah. Last Wednesday, I hit Tram Trail again, sort of local trail outside of Boise. And it felt good when I was done. But yeah, during the whole time, I was not really enjoying it like I would be when I'm, weight training. And so I think that's
Right.
something that I just have to, overcome. Because I think there's both perks.
Well, I would say, well, yeah, being physically active in any
Yeah.
form is fantastic and a great lifestyle to have. But I would say that, do you have a goal of, if I was you, I would have a goal of killing an elk and a deer this fall, right? Like that's the
Right.
goal.
That is the
I'm
goal.
gonna kill both these animals. What's it gonna take to kill those animals? Going and hiking Tram Trail 2 days a week, right? With a
Right.
loaded
And then,
pack. So do you enjoy hiking Tram Trail? No. When I was your age, absolutely not. I didn't. As I've gotten older, I do enjoy it. I don't know if I've found enjoyment in it or if I just understand through the process that I will be more effective when I'm out there hunting. I'm not exactly sure, but I actually just really look forward to them now. But again, you created a goal and what the steps to get to that goal. If hiking and training is one of those steps that you identify, you just got to suck it up and go do it.
right. I like what you were saying is like, yeah, do you enjoy training or do you enjoy hiking Tram Trail? No, but like, and the second
Do
question
you?
is, do you enjoy killing an elk? And it's like, well, yeah,
Yeah.
so like
Yes.
those are the steps to get to it. And I think, lately, when we did the whole fitness challenge and everything, my goal was opposite of all your guys's was to build up muscle. And so once I started doing it, at the start, I wasn't seeing really that much progress. And then towards, the end of it and still now I'm like, I enjoy it because I do see those results. And so that's something that I can relate to as far as hiking and getting more in shape, which I definitely need to as well. Cause in a month a month and 4 days we're
Doing the
going
death
out and
hike.
going on the death hike. So I definitely,
For kudos to you because you've been doing the death hike since you were 18 years old. Like those were things I never even dreamed I was capable of when I was 18. Right.
yeah,
Granted, you're around guys that like, well, if you're doing it, I can do it. You're old. I'm young. I got this.
uh,
But I didn't have those people around me when I was your age. But
yeah,
still, the commitment to go do it, they're not easy. That's for sure.
right. And I do want to, give the thanks back to you for taking me along. And you've definitely warned me or have always reminded me, relying on my young age isn't going to be everything. It's not the end all be all. Because on the 2018 death hike, I got my butt whooped on the first day and I didn't do the second day.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next year, which was the Frank Church hunt, that one was different. The one that I really liked was the fly-in Frank, where
Mm-hmm.
we snowshoed out. That was one that I definitely trained for more than any other one. And it was fun. It was great. I felt good. But yeah, I do thank you for. Oh yeah, that's what I was getting at. Is I remember you and other people wouldn't give me a hard time, but yeah, I definitely am very fortunate to have a lot of guys, like yourself who are older than me who, it's not giving me a hard time, but it's kind of pushing me,
Yeah.
I have all these quote unquote coaches, in my life who, whether it's, poking fun or, give me a little hard time to get out, they ultimately just care about me. They want to see me succeed, on these things. And it's I'm super fortunate to have guys like you. So I really appreciate it. It's awesome. Sometimes I want to roll my eyes or something when somebody, tells me what to do regarding hiking. I'm like, oh, I'm 22 or 23. But yeah, you can't always rely on that. um, so, all right, I got one more question. This is the question that I kind of want to keep the same for every single person. I'm going to cater a couple of other questions a little bit differently because everybody has a little bit of a different background. So, even though you're a very successful hunter, so I think, a lot of other people would agree. What would you say your biggest weakness is, while out hunting? It doesn't have to be something drastic, but what's something that you find yourself doing that, in the field that you try to mitigate? Is it something new every year or is it something recurring? Do you feel like you have a weakness, in the field? I, I don't know what it could be, but is there something there?
I would say I certainly had I identified this, oh, yeah, I don't know, probably 10 years ago or so, was basically giving up on a hunt, deciding that it wasn't going to happen. And like, I'm done. I'm done. Mentally check out, put your head down and walk back to the truck. And I think it was a hunt I had with Mike, and we were deer hunting in southern Idaho, and we didn't even kill anything, but had hiked out. It was a December archery deer hunt, and we'd hiked out, and we had just kind of got to the point where we wanted to be. We weren't seeing deer, and my natural progression was just like, all right, well, we're done. Let's go back to the truck. And so I kind of start walking that way, and then Mike, I can't remember exactly how it went down. We kind of like looked at me like, no, we're gonna hike this way. Like we're gonna hunt our way back to the truck. And it was like, well, you're crazy, man. Like I'm tired. It's probably your age, and I guess I'd have been mid to late 20s, a little bit older than you, but it was he just we almost killed a deer on the way back out, and it just stuck with me that, like, man, if that opportunity would never have happened if he had just followed me, because I was like just gonna follow our footsteps right back out. And so I had this, and I just started thinking about how many times I'd done that on a hunt and was doing it after the fact of just kind of, you get you get pouty as a word for it, right? Like, oh, my hunt didn't go successful today. I'm just gonna head back to the truck now. And you can almost always find a way to hunt your way out and find an animal. I mean, this literally just happened when Mark was out here on the bear hunt. We had seen basically one bear, and by day 3, we had a very easy option to drop down the ridge, hit a trail, walk back to the truck, and try again, later in the week. But instead, we decided to drop off this crap face, climb up a couple thousand feet, and hit and get up on top of another ridge and glass off the backside of it. And we ended up killing a bear that day. Like, 10 plus 15 years ago, that I would have never done that. We'd have walked out and not been successful. So that was certainly something that I had a bad tendency of doing. Like I was all gung ho and energy to like go in there, but this, after a couple days, or whatever the duration of the hunt was, where it's kind of starting to wrap up, and giving up on a hunt was something that I identified as a major weakness and fixed. Frankly, not that it's not that it's easy, because that's when like a little bit of mental toughness comes in, and physical effort, right? Like you've already been hunting and you're tired, and you do just want to give up and call it quits and go back to town and get a hamburger. But to be able to stick it out, and I've killed a lot of animals the last 10 plus years now, doing, just sticking things out and being a little bit more mentally tough.
Right, for sure. Especially for, even having a family too, I'm sure doesn't help. You want to get back home even sooner.
Yeah, I think it actually does help, and that I know my time is way better spent out there than if I was to come home and then have to go back out on another trip. So if I've got one more day to hunt hard, I've certainly tended to, like, instead of packing it up and going home early, just give it my all, give it that 120% effort, and basically hunt as much as I can, because I owe that to my family. To I'm already gone. I might as well make the absolute most of the opportunity that I have in front of me, instead of trying to call it quits and then again come back later, because that's just more time away. And again, it's all getting a lot easier now that the kids are 4 and 6, and not in diapers and crying all the time and not sleeping.
For sure, for sure. No, I think that's I mean, I think I would say a lot of people are guilty of that to an extent, is giving up in a way. There's been times where I mean, probably in life in general, but yeah, as hunting, relating to hunting, there's been times where it's hot, it's exhausting, and you just want to get back home. You think about the luxury you have back at home. And that's something that I'm writing down too, is to, mitigate that, just tough it out.
Yeah. I'll try, I mean, I've certainly identified and fixed a lot of little things over the years. And currently I've been pretty dang efficient in the last handful of years of just getting out there and being successful. The one thing I still struggle with is is getting up early in the morning. I know I could be probably a better hunter. I create more opportunities for myself if I was always up 30 minutes before light, but I'm pretty lazy in the mornings. I sleep so terribly back there that and then take sleeping pills that make me groggy that I'm barely, like, I'd say 90% of the time I'm not awake at first light. But still find a way to get it done and be effective. Just that's certainly something I could work on and do a better job with.
Yeah, I love to sleep in too. So we're in the same boat. Man, Steve, I just want to say thank you again so much. I don't know if you could tell earlier when we started this podcast, I'm pretty sure everybody could tell listening to it. I was pretty nervous when it all started. Yeah, it's just one thing. You've really, I mentioned this and I really didn't put it into words, how you really have turned like my dream when I was 17 into basically when I was 17, you turned my dream into a reality. I didn't know back then I was going to be able to be sitting here, in the office and recording a podcast with you. And yeah, I just want to thank you again so much for letting me do this. And one, also taking time out of your evening to answer these questions, and then also to progress with this and have a couple other guys and put this on, your platform. So I just really wanted to say thank you again so much. And for all of the info. I mean, I'll show you tomorrow when you come back in the office, all of my notes, but it's definitely something. I took a lot of notes, and this is exactly what I wanted. I wanted to be able to, I don't want to call it selfish, but in a way, like, this is ultimately, like, this is going to help me a lot. And I'm sure there's quite a few guys out there that are going to take a lot from, these next few episodes that will air on Friday, towards the end of the month. And yeah, take some info and hopefully apply it to their season. That's my goal. So again, thank you so much, man.
Well, yeah, thank you for working hard and busting butt. And you made the opportunity for yourself, since you were 17, just coming in and working hard for us and having a good attitude. And so you're as, very responsible for the position that you're in. It's been through your own hard work and good attitudes. So
I appreciate it.
And then, yeah, I'm selfishly excited for you for this, because I think I see you right now where I was at like 18, 19, right? Like, I was like really wanting to get into hunting more and learn more and be more successful and to kind of help. I think these conversations are certainly going to help a lot, not only for you, but for plenty of the listeners out there, to just kind of push them in the right direction and just start thinking, it takes a lot of being very mindful of a lot of little things, but it's all, at the end of the day, it just comes down to learning, getting out there, having experiences and learning from them, and just applying the things you've learned into your next hunt. There's a lot. Mark and I are working on that series right now where we break down successful hunts with different guests and what made them successful. And there's just so many little nuanced details that at the end of the day, again, they all just come back to learning from your experiences. The one we did this morning with Ben Reynolds, he had basically dropped all his gear to go kill a Dall sheep. And I think in the process of putting the rifle together, knew that he needed to have his rifle scope zoomed all the way out because it was going to be a close shot, right? Like, for 2 hours before he's going to start the stalk, and it's a big climb up, and he just glanced over that really fast in the podcast, and it's like, that's such a like massive detail that so many guys would just have their scope, because they had maybe looked at an animal an hour prior and threw the rifle scope and cranked it all the way up to 18 power, and had not taken that opportunity to crank it back down. And they get in that situation, they try to get the sheep or the whatever animal it is in the scope, and they're fully zoomed in, and they can't see anything. They got to get out of their gun and back out, and then bam, the animal's gone. They missed their opportunity. So it's like this combination of having all these little things that it just always comes back to having experiences, learning from them, and being mindful when you're out there hunting.
Right. For sure. Yeah. I don't want, or this isn't going to be the ultimate solution. Like, this is only part of it. The other part is getting out there and taking this information and applying it and putting boots to the ground. Yeah. And I'm really excited for the next guest I'm going to have on here. Actually, the next one, it will be Jeff Bloomquist. He doesn't know it yet, but he is going to be the next guest. And I'll let him kind of do his introduction. But yeah, I'm super stoked to hear what he's got to say. He's very well spoken, and he gets after it.
And you'll find there's a lot of ways to skin a cat.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate myself to hunt with a lot of hunters, and there's a lot of different ways to be successful. And it just takes you learning from other people. And then also, as you asked in this podcast, like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Right. So highlighting, like, okay, here's my strengths. Here's what I can do well. Maybe being really physically fit is something that's, a very good asset that you have. So use that to your advantage. Right. And vice versa. If you're like somebody who just isn't fit or has a bum knee and you can't hike far, just adjusting your plans to suit your strengths and your weaknesses, and go highlight your strengths and work on your weaknesses. Then you'll find these different guys all hunt differently and get it done in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thrilled. Well, folks, that's a wrap. Unless you have anything else to say, Steve, is there
No?
anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Appreciate the time.
No, I appreciate it. And I just want to say thanks to everybody who's listened. If you have any questions, things that you'd like me to ask future guests or feedback, shoot us an email to podcast@exomountaingear.com or through SpeakPipe. That link will be in the show description, just titled Leave a Message. But yeah, thank you again for listening and tuning in, and we'll talk to you later. Mic drop.
Good job, dude.
Thanks, dude. Thanks.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, you might have been nervous early on, but I didn't pick up on it.
I was sweating profusely.
You didn't stumble or anything.
Started.
You're good.
Oh, at the start, I was vomiting out of my mouth.